Good morning. I want to thank everybody who joins us. Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation today. It's 10th of March. It's been 9 years of the war, and today is day 380 of the full-scale invasion. Today we will be talking about a very important subject, the subject of the operation of our business and problems of our business. I want to introduce our guest today. It's Vashchuk, the business ombudsman. Good morning, Mr. Roman. Good morning. Yes, I also want to say that joining us online will be Yulia Dragovic, the Vice President for the Ukrainian Union of Businesses, Natalia Artemchuk, the Manager of the Tax and Customs Committee of the European Business Association, Oksana Shvets, the representative of American Chamber of Commerce, Natalia Zabriska, Vice President, the Deputy Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce of Ukraine, and their colleagues will be joining us online. And the subject of today's conversation is the problems the businesses face today. Today we will be talking about the investigation of the Council of Business Ombudsman that Mr. Roman will be representing today. It's related to the fact that 40% of active VAT payers were at target, were under the microscope of the tax administration. So Mr. Roman, please go ahead. Thank you very much. Obviously, this abbreviation SMCOR won't tell anything to anybody, so I have to recognize that until the last year when I took the office, I didn't have any imagination of what it is. I've never heard about any tax invoices. 1165 was just a figure for me, not the key resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, and I did not understand, I did not realize that I will be witnessing not only full-scale invasion, but the October business revolution in Kiev, which exploded unexpectedly, but just like any other revolution, it has a long story going back in ages. Well, so let me see how it switches. Just a small second. I will have to ask our technical team to join us and help us with switching the presentation slides. Okay, you just have to switch backwards. I'm switching forward, but I should be switching backwards. Well, as you see here, when the system was implemented, it was supposed to assess risks. Whether the business is risky, well, not if the business is risky, but rather if the operations of the business are risky. So there was a rise in activity, and then it fell due to the war, and then it came back again to the higher level, to the higher indicators in the third and fourth quarters of year 22, but those are not the most dramatic figures. Maybe I will have to ask you, since you communicate with your colleagues in a magic manner, who influence this clicker in some magical manner. Okay, all right. So there are two visions of this wonderful system on part of the government and from the point of view of the business. So the government says, look, we block 1 to 2% of these tax invoices. So that's no big deal. From the point of view of business, in the fourth quarter, 65,000 businesses in Ukraine, those are only sellers, their invoices were suspended, which suspended their activity. So the government says, so what? Well, you can continue working. And the smaller businesses, for them it becomes impossible. They think it's the end of the business. They shut down. One company shuts down, and the business opens another company just to make a way around those restrictions. So how much time is necessary to unfreeze those suspended suspended invoices. The government says 1 hour. That was written in the analysis of the government regulator. The business said in our during our questioning that it's 12 plus hours. That's with the account of the fact that the government assesses the work of the accountants who work at minimal wage. That's the question to them, but legally it's not so. So there is an underestimated costs of the Ukrainian businesses, which carry expenses of 12 times more, if not 20 to 30. So it's additional load, additional tax load on the Ukrainian business. How it all can be documented? The government says like half an hour. It takes them half an hour to consider all of it. But really, in reality, the fact is that there is a huge number of those invoices, and it takes way more time. So you see this meme, you see the reactions we're getting when we were questioning business about their vision, about the problems they see. They're asking, so why someone else's invoices are getting registered, why the penalties, why the sanctions. The accountants say that is the torture for them, that this is something that kills the small business, that they should go to the court, they should sue, that would entail more and more expenses and loss of profit. So this is where the key statistics is. The development of this system within the years from 2019, you can see that on one hand there is this ruler, there is the punctured line, the dotted line, the number of the suspended tax invoices per quarter, and the columns are the proportions of active businesses which were facing that phenomena. So in the first quarter of 2019, it was 3.8 active Ukrainian VAT payers. In the quarter 4 of 2022, it was 4.4%, more than 10 times growth. So who could have imagined that? Why it was conceived like that? To fight the black market, to fight the machinations. So 2/3 of the tax schemes were eliminated in this way. So the Council of Business Ombudsman doesn't have a contradiction with the system as it is. What we see is the more and more implementation, more intense implementation, extension of automatic criteria which drive the system to manual management. So unforeseen regulation. In October there were changes which were very bad communicated and created a shock in business environment, mass shock. I already mentioned the manual control, very clearly communicated problems. You have to grab a lawyer. Again, it results in expense of time and money, absence of administrative dispute. It's yet another topic, because if you hear the Ministry of Finance, we had a dialogue with them which started in a belligerent way but ended quite constructively. But during this dialogue, they said, like, let them submit the tables. But why every business in Ukraine has to explain in some codes what they do? Why a bakery has to justify the fact that they bake bread? It's a natural activity for the bakery. In this situation, you submit a table and then you say, oh, okay, and on top of that, I want to bake some buns, not only bread. So that's yet another table. So, and in different regions, this is being interpreted in different way. Improper justification of solutions. That's about the previous thing I mentioned. Inefficiency of court protection. 90-95% of cases are being resolved in favor of business by courts. So the court practice says the previous resolutions were incorrect, either in content or substance, and the government and the businesses, they have different view of this thing, and we will see the representatives of the organizations which are participants of the Council of Business Ombudsman. It's not a consolidated positions of our inspectors, but also our partners from key business organizations. Oh, just a second, I forgot this hand which tries to support the wall. Those are the amendments dated October and dated December and February to the resolution 1165 to mitigate the catastrophic consequences which we were witnessing in October. They improved the situation just a little, and we were told both in parliamentary committee and Ministry of Finance that for April they prepare more amendments which will improve the situation, but they have not changed it cardinally just yet. Okay, so what we want in our role as the defenders, protectors of business, and as people who consult with business, and we received more than 4,000 complaints about the operation of this system. We want it to be forecasted. You want to make amendments? Discuss it first of all, communicate them, and think about the consequences. Proportional nature. Someone sold something to a business which turned out to be problematic, so you don't have to spread this in a viral manner and shut down all the partners. Risk-orientedness. The risk should be added to the automatic system of assessment. Digitalization, development of digital system and its connection to this government in the smartphone, in the broad understanding of it. Business orientedness. We're talking here about the following thing. If the government cannot support the business with their big hand, they should not impede their operation. I'm giving you just a small example, micro example from our recent practice. Ministry of Economy issued a grant for creation of micro business to create jobs in the recently liberated territory. The business started operating, and right away they submitted their VAT invoices. The tax administration said, but you don't have a positive tax history, and that's obvious. That's a startup which was started at the expense of the grant of the government of Ukraine. So the right hand has to think what the left hand does. And communication. This is what we're doing here now. In a human language, yeah, we'll learn to do it. To communicate it in a human language, the changes that are coming, that internal resolution or amendment, it cannot be just published and everyone must then comply. Every private entrepreneur or an accountant is supposed to understand that dry technical language. You have to explain it clearly what you mean by that. What we recommend. There are 10 recommendations in our report and 16 pages of technical recommendations that we submit to the Committee of Verkhovna Rada, you, Ministry of Finance, and DBS. Real automatization. If there is a system which requires administrative and financial contribution by the business, it's one of the unique aspects of Ukrainian system. It requires the business to invest money first. The money is being suspended and the government uses it. As long as they block that invoice, they get this free loan from the business. So that should be kept in mind too. There was a promise that yes, the system costs something, it's complicated, but you will get reimbursed automatically. Now there is this complication, there are money suspended, and the automatic nature of it just went to sleep, so to say. We have to wake up this automatic nature and risk-oriented nature, analysis and forecasting. If there is an analysis of the regulatory influence, don't add some imaginary figures which get the stamp of the regulator easily, because those figures are taken from the ceiling. In reality, you have to really hear what the business say about the influence of them. Add the circuit breakers, so to say. If in the automatic system the business comes to an edge, they have to be signaled first, like a yellow light, that their oxygen will be disconnected soon. Correction of administrative practice in compliance with the court resolutions. If you lose 95% of cases, then you have to come to some conclusions. Well, preliminary phases, when you step over some edge, you can correct your sanctions. Administrative disputing. We are against the stabilization of businesses, but where those businesses, where those tables should be used in business, there should be a way to dispute them when they are not accepted. I've been clicking in our system in the morning and I've seen there was a company which submits those tables for the 5th time. And we act as an informal administrative disputing, but there is no procedure as such in place. There are countries who have white lists of partners, and there are countries which have black lists. In Ukraine there are no lists at all, so you have to guess it whether someone is risky or not. So there should be information that you entered into agreement with this or that company, that company is risky, and you don't find it out in a year after you were not cautious enough to work with someone with some disputable within the framework of some disputable operations. If you doubtful operations, if you read it, it's the proportional indicator. If you have 3%, 4% of some risky operations, you don't have to have your business shut down. Maybe 4% of your operations should be suspended, but not 100%. Proportionality, transparency of procedures, and accessibility of details about key indicators. The tax service posts the official statistics, but the business community should see what the trends, the tendencies are. Who was suspended for what, why, where? Are we coming close to 4% now, or back to those 40% of those businesses which get affected by this procedure? So this is what we wanted to represent. I would like to invite our guests from business associations. They can either reflect or answer your questions with me. I would like to ask our technical team to show our experts on screen, and meanwhile, if there are any questions on the floor, dear colleagues, please take this opportunity. Please, we're having questions here. Levy Berich, Alexander Detik, please tell us to which extent the regulatory acts in Ukraine are being analyzed before they're being adopted. You mentioned that there is the preliminary analysis of the acts to be adopted, but how is it natural for our government first to analyze the law and then to adopt it? Formally, there are procedures like that in place. There are state regulatory service who deals with this issue, and if you see in the majority of acts, this procedure exists. However, if you fill the questionnaire, is the ministry who is interested in it. They fill the questionnaire. In this case, it's Ministry of Finance, and naturally they describe it in a way that they like. So I think this is the question of strengthening of the role of tax service, so they can ask more questions and more frequently, not just put their stamp on the document which is adopted. Just like in many things in Ukraine, the procedures are in place, but they are applied in a formal manner rather than to find out something interesting. Well, there are more questions. So, and you as the consultant for our government, maybe you will focus more of their attention on this issue. Maybe you will keep telling it to them and they will realize it on an umpteenth time. Well, I think this is the Hippocrates principle. Hippocrates' principle: do not harm. That's a small thing, actually. The segment of system that many people never heard about. And I've been talking to a people's deputy just yesterday. On hand's length, she has a business, and she says, I've never knew about that system just until the moment that my accountant came to me and said we are being suspended in the Q4 of the last year. So this is how people actually find out about that. So we have to understand that the state mechanisms may have huge consequences even in the small systems. So it's a viral nature. Those are being recognized risky, like not only one transaction, but all of your business, not only your business, but your suppliers, your buyers. So those 40.4% are not all of it. They are only sellers, and those sellers, they have their buyers. Once I was visited a shopping center in the regional capital, which was considered to be risky because the cleaning company didn't have enough mops to clean it, and that was considered to be something wrong, something risky. So they started reporting to the business which were renting it that you're working in a risky shopping center. So this problem with the mops, it turned out to be a problem for many business operating with millions. Thank you. Today our experts act as listeners, but we have active journalists here on the floor. Economic Truth, Yaroslav and Mikora. I would like to ask you about those 40%. 40% of the active businesses. Yes, there is a difference. Sometimes there are different discussions, different denominators. We were counting it based on the number of business which submitted their VAT, their tax invoices in Q4. Not all of the businesses existing in Ukraine, but active businesses. 40.4%, at least one invoice was suspended for each of them. Thank you, dear friends. Our time is running out. If anybody still has any questions, please go ahead and ask. Well, we have all the questions answered. Thank you, Mr. Mann. I'm seeing this topic is very interesting for further disputing. I hope that someday we will stop remembering that we have one of the most risky taxes, the VAT, that everybody who ever dealt with the entrepreneurship or to businesses, everybody understand that it's a problem. So thank you very much for this broadcast, dear friends. Thank you for interest in this topic. We stay here, bear with us. Glory to Ukraine.